This is Harley Flannagan from the Cro-Mags, and I'm coming to the UK in about a week. I'm going to be at all these different theaters with the new movie Wired for Chaos. I'll be in London at the Park Picture House on November 6th, Manchester, Cultplex November 7th, Birmingham at the Mockingbird November 9th. I'm looking forward to all these. Yes, and in Brighton, Dukes at Comedia, which is November 10th and back in London at the Ritzy Brixton Picture House, which is on November 11th. Go to wiredforchaos.com to get tickets. I am going to be doing a Q&A, and this is going to be awesome.
Then Harley, man, it's sweet to see you, and I'm so glad you're coming to the UK. I've been looking at, I've seen the movie, and it is your life has just been up and down roller coaster, dude, and it makes me proud and just excited and happy that you've come out of it the way you have, man. Because New York, I've never been to New York, but we see it on the news a lot. How was it growing up in the area you grew up in? Was your music a way out of escaping the hardships, or did your music help you? Did the New York help your music? Which way around was it?
I think my music was really just an extension, of me and obviously my environment.
Yeah,
You know, um, I mean, I was into punk rock, like
yeah,
I got into the first wave of punk when it first happened. I
yeah,
was 10. So and because I was already very musically inclined and I was already taking music classes in school and playing in the school band and shit like that.
mm,
So when punk happened, that really kind of my musical direction was kind of forged
yeah.
by the Sex Pistols, the Clash,
Oh yeah,
the Dead,
Sex Pistols.
the Dead Boys, all those early bands. And so when I ended up on the Lower East Side for good, my grandparents lived in Queens, which is where
Yeah,
the Ramones and everybody came from. Like my aunts went to high school with those
yeah,
guys and stuff. But when I ended up on the Lower East Side, which was really, really, really ghetto back then,
yeah.
uh, so that all of those elements that shaped my music.
Mm,
The punk, and then that first wave of hardcore bands, be it the Bad Brains and
yeah.
the early stuff that didn't even call itself hardcore. It was
Yeah.
still punk. You
Well,
know.
when you think back to those early years of the CBGB and what memories stand out for you the most from way back, have you got something that stands out and goes, my life
Yeah,
defined by this
probably the
moment?
first, probably like the first time I saw the Dead Boys there, which was in the 70s.
Yeah,
And, that memory really stands out to me. As a game-changing CBGB's moment.
mm,
But there were so many. I mean, I saw so many great shows there.
yeah,
In fact, I was talking to the people who put on the festival recently. I went to CBGB's the first time. My mother and my aunt, who was a founding member of the punk band, the
yeah. I
Stimulators,
saw the movie. Yeah,
they, they took me there when I was 6. That the year that the place opened,
yeah,
which was I believe 73 or 74.
yeah.
And so, and Hilly's the one who pointed that out to me, the owner. And I literally played there through the club's entire history,
Mm,
even to the last weekend. So, like, I started going there the year
yeah.
it opened and played there the last weekend. I saw everything.
That's when you were 6 years old and you went there for the first time. Did you did you want to be a musician? Was you playing music then, or did you look at it and go, "I like this. I want to be part of this"? At 6 years
Oh, you
old?
know what? Nah, you know what, dude? I never had a "this is what I want to do" moment.
Yeah,
I was just always doing it.
yeah,
You know, I think actually my mom probably had it more in her head that she saw
yeah,
that that she wanted me to be either some sort of an artist or a
yeah,
musician or this or that because she was a bit of a hippie. And
yeah,
I think that that was her pipe dream,
Mm.
because she grew up hanging out with a lot of
Yeah,
cool and hip musicians and
yeah,
so on and so forth. So she just saw me as being a continuation of that, and I think she
hmm,
was kind of living vicariously through
yeah,
me as I got older in that
yeah.
capacity.
So
So
did
she
she
didn't put me on
did
on
she
that
push
roller
did she
coaster.
push you along, or did she
Yeah, a
plant the
little bit.
seed and let you run with it?
I think that's probably closer. She didn't really
Is it?
push me along because she did,
Yeah,
I would say if anything, her sister, my aunt, did a little
yeah,
bit more of that because she was the guitarist for the Stimulators.
yeah,
So she, if anything, pushed along my musical career.
yeah.
My mom just kind of, you know,
Hmm.
jump started it by the surroundings that she put me in.
Yeah,
You know, I didn't really grow up around kids.
yeah.
I grew up in a very
Our son's the same. He hasn't grown up around kids. Hopefully you'll meet him at the Mockingbird.
yeah, I hope
Um,
so. But, I
yes,
would say don't rob them of being a kid, though.
no.
This critical.
Well, that's another question I was going to ask you. You ended up on stage with 11 as a drummer. Is that
Yeah,
what the
touring.
so
Like I was already on tour by then.
so do you feel that your childhood was taken away from you because of all the stuff you saw?
Absolutely, absolutely,
Did Would you have anything different from
absolutely,
you would change that?
absolutely,
You would.
absolutely.
Okay. So the Cro-Mags, and I had to look you up, and I just love the sound of you guys. Yeah, I'm um I'm like an EDM 1980s kind of guy,
Gotcha, gotcha.
but my son has got me into he's like metal. He's the Black Sabbath, Ozzy, Metallica, Metalhead, all these kind of things.
Mhm.
And your band, Cro-Mags, helped define hardcore. Is there anything that stands out for you back in the day with the community and chaos? Was it more community? Because on the movie, there was this massive community of people that was had each other's backs, and you was one big brotherhood kind of thing, or was it chaos as well?
Well, it was kind of that within the chaos. That's
Mm.
kind of what made you have each other's backs,
Yeah,
because in that chaos, you needed
yeah,
some sort of a support system just to exist and survive. I mean,
yeah,
without it was much different than, the late 70s, early 80s in Birmingham,
mm.
or,
Yeah,
any working class and any big city in the UK, had lots of drama in the youth culture, lots
yeah,
of street fighting, lots of going on.
yeah.
And
We had the skinheads, the punks, and the
yeah,
rockers, the
exactly.
mods, and all that
And
kind of
that's
thing.
exactly what we had going on because,
Yeah,
you got to remember, I went to Belfast in 1980 and got my head shaved and was like the
yeah,
initiator to the New York skinhead scene, which
mm.
bled into the rest of the country. And we all know where that went,
Yeah,
and not all for the better.
yeah,
But I will say that, what I got out, what for me, what being a skinhead meant was pretty basic. It just meant I wasn't taking any anybody.
yeah,
That's all it meant to me. It
mm.
meant that I was like, because whereas having been a punk rocker, you kind of walked around with a target on your back.
Yeah,
And I grew up in a neighborhood where I kind of had a target on my back anyway. So it was like a
mm.
double whammy.
Mm.
And when I went to Belfast and saw these dudes who were like, would fight at the drop of anything and
Yeah,
would take it to you and not just take it to you. They'd fight with the cops.
yeah,
They'd go into battle. And I was like, this is my people right here. This
yeah,
is so for me, it wasn't politics. It wasn't this. It wasn't that. It was just punk rock with a little bit more
yeah.
attitude, a little bit more aggro.
Do
Just
you
like
think
I'm not
it's?
taking shit from anybody.
Do you think it
You
is?
know.
That's a good mantra to have nowadays as well, actually, 'cause like, especially in Belfast and what's happening in the UK at the moment. I know America is going through a lot of political change as well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so it's a good mantra to live by, but not taking nobody. He's pretty much
Yeah, but you know what? I can't really say that about the UK or Europe so much because I don't really know. I only know what I see on
yeah,
social media and on the news, and I can't really believe all of that. So,
yeah,
without being there to experience it
yeah,
and understand it firsthand, I feel like I would be jumping on the soundbite bandwagon, and
Yeah,
I don't want to do that.
totally.
I
Yeah,
think people
got you.
people are too comfortable with jumping on sound bites that just suit their emotional
Yeah,
state of mind instead of actually getting to the facts. And I think that feeds the fire of ignorance and hostility that
yeah,
it already exists within the current climate more
yeah,
so than. But you know what? Right now, when I look at it historically, it's not that different from like 1980. It's not that different from the 60s. It's not that if you look at all the historic that was going on during the Vietnam War and everything else, all of this stuff is kind of, and I'm sure if you go back further, it's
mm,
repeating itself in its own ways over and over.
yeah.
This is just our time around, and you know, you'd like to think that people would learn something from history and
Well,
learn something from their
well,
own mistakes.
I've learnt in Belfast. The peace in Belfast we're having at the moment is a good thing from back in the 70s and the 80s.
This is a fact. This is a fact. But again, there's also again, I don't know what the fuck to believe on social media or anything else. But it seems like there is other tension
Yeah,
now that
yeah,
So again, I can't speak on anything. All I know is yes, things are different, and just like things are different on the Lower East Side and in New York.
yeah,
We don't have the same level of insanity, but at the same time, it's not gone. And
yeah,
to be honest, we talk about the dangers that we went through as youth. I think that the dangers that kids today face are a little bit more because more intense, even because they first of all we got the drugs now that we didn't
yeah,
even have back then. Secondly, we got weapons now that we didn't
yeah.
have then. Back then you'd get your ass kicked, you get stabbed, you
That was
might
it.
get shot. Yeah, you might get shot, but it wasn't
Yeah,
guaranteed. Now you're probably going to get shot before you even get hit.
yeah,
You know, and forget about the fact that kids don't even know how to interact or have socially interact anymore because they've been living through cell phones their entire life.
yeah,
So there's a lot of things, a lot of dangers now that the kids have and face that we didn't even have to deal
yeah,
with growing up.
mm,
And I think that because we used to have to seek out other human interaction, we
yeah,
used to have to congregate, used to have to create social circles. I think that gave us a little bit more of an edge in life. I think, I'm not a fucking a genius or anything, but I think when you take away that interaction, you get a little bit more crazy shit going on in
yeah,
here, and kids get like they get you see people who lose shit over like an insult online and get
yeah.
shot, shoot each
I
other,
know.
like just crazy, you
I know.
know.
Talking about the kids, I noticed I've seen your videos online with the BJJ teaching.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now,
I did that for a while.
is that is that something that you wanted to do for the youth in your area? Is that something because of what
Absolutely.
happened to you with the the growing up?
I wound up doing it because my kids. I just actually did a jujitsu
Yeah.
with Jits Magazine from the UK. I just did an interview with
All
them.
right.
So, but I
I'll
started
look. I'll look
teaching
it up.
kids. Yeah, cool. I just did. I started doing the kids program there because my kids were kind of the beginning of the
Yeah.
kids program at Hensel Gracie. One of them was
Yeah.
4, and one of them was
Oh,
6.
what a brilliant age.
And prior to that, there was only like 1 or 2 kids that had actually been training, and
Yeah.
one of them was actually Gianni Grippa, who's like
Yeah.
currently just a ridiculous badass, and was when he was a kid. He
Yeah.
was just a phenom growing up. So my kids were kind of the reason I got pulled into helping with the kids program, and
No, that's brilliant.
I did that for a long time until my kids aged out, and I was still working there in different
Yeah.
capacities and teaching other classes and so on.
Yeah.
But then, when my kids aged out, I started touring again,
Yeah.
and you know what? I stopped teaching more so because I stopped training.
Yeah.
I was in there teaching and clocking out when I was done instead of being in there
Yeah.
because I wanted to be in there getting sweaty and getting beat
Yeah.
up and doing my thing. So now that I'm not teaching, I'm in there rolling all the time
Yeah.
again, which for me is just that's where it's at. That's why I started.
Yeah. Well, if you
You
when you come over here and you want to roll, we've got some Olympian
I
guys there.
totally appreciate that, man. You know what?
Seriously, man,
I,
we've
and
got some good
typically,
guys.
And typically, I don't train when I'm on tour, but because
Yeah,
this isn't really a tour, I'm doing
yeah.
a movie tour. I might be able to just like, yeah, you know what? Let me go have some fun. Because
Have a
on
cheeky one.
tour, there's always the risk of getting injured, and I
Yeah,
blow the show that night because
yeah,
I cut my wrist or this or that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. Like you say, you've had your fair share of ups and downs, but what keeps you going? What keeps you moving?
Well, I'll tell you, man, yesterday I really didn't feel like getting off my ass and getting on the subway and going downtown and dealing with all that madness just to go train
Yeah,
and get my most likely get my ass kicked because I hadn't trained in nearly 2 months. I've been traveling for the past 2 months, and my training partner has been in there like it's
yeah,
a religion. You know, he's in there like 6 days a week working hard, and he's got a good 60 pounds on me. And I knew I was going to go and get ragged, but I got up off my ass and I did it because I feel like that is what sets me
yeah,
apart from your average person. Like I would rather get up and go in there and take my ass whooping and
yeah,
feel like I'm making a difference. You know, I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna get beat up probably,
yeah,
but if I get a couple like if I pull off a couple techniques, if I get a couple
yeah,
sweeps, if anything, if I get lucky and get a
yeah,
submission,
yeah.
so
I know that. I
that I
know that
feel like,
feeling, brother. I know that feeling.
you know, for me,
Um,
that's what changes things.
how different are you now from the early Cro-Mag years to now? How different are you? Same dude
Well,
or
at my core, I still have the same, I'm still the same person, but thank God I'm not,
yeah,
acting on the same level and acting on the same impulse because, if you're the same person at 20 that you are at 40, you got a real
yeah,
fucking problem. I'd like to think I've evolved a lot, but circumstances of your life also dictate your behavior.
mm,
So, had I grown up differently and in a different environment, I probably
mm,
wouldn't have acted out in the ways that I did.
yeah.
So,
Okay. So I noticed you've got a lot of tattoos. Did you have was you really young when you had your first tattoo?
I was 15, yeah.
Yeah. So I was on the movie. I wanted to ask you about that. Do you remember which one it was?
Oh, yeah, it was actually this one right here. It was actually by Bob Roberts, who's a
Yeah.
tattoo legend.
Yeah. Was that New York?
And yeah, and he didn't ask me how old I was till after he did the tattoo.
So would you think he'd have done it before if you knew you was 15?
Oh, fuck no. I mean, and they weren't legal in New York anyway at the time, but I was
Yeah.
15.
Yeah. Like we got kids over here at 13, 14 with tattoos, man.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
all
I know, I
it's all
know.
good. It's all good.
Yeah,
Um
trust me. I got kids. I know.
well, have they got tattoos yet? How old are they?
Yeah, one of them does. Yeah.
Did he come and ask you first, or did he just go ahead and get it done?
Fuck no. If he did, I would. If he did, they'd be better tattoos, and I would have paid for them.
My lad, he's into metal and punk and stuff, and I said,
Yeah,
"Oh, you need a tattoo because I've got loads." He said, "No, no, why do I said, "Man, you can't be metal and rock if you don't have tattoos, man. Come on."
yeah. Well, I
Um,
told him, I said, look, you wait and get it when you're legal. I'll pay for it, but I got to go and make sure
yeah,
it's not, you know.
yeah.
And of course, he didn't wait. He got it himself, and now he wants to get it covered. So,
Uh, waste of money, man. Um, so how do you feel about the way hardcore and punk has evolved over the decades? Would you prefer it back then or now?
I'm happy to see it evolving, and you don't want to see things stagnate and stay the same forever.
Yeah,
And I think there's been a lot of healthy changes throughout the years. There
yeah,
was minutes, here and there where things just got redundant, and every now and then you need an injection of something new,
yeah,
some new blood to just change it up a little bit.
yeah,
And like for instance, like this is a great example. I remember like 5 years ago, we played a festival and this band opened up for us, and I was like, "Oh, these guys are cool, man.
yeah.
They got a lot of energy. I dig
Well,
where
that's
they're
good.
coming from.
Yeah,
It's not all like thugged out and angry and rah, rah, rah. It's a little bit more just fun and energetic."
yeah,
And a few years later, all of a sudden, oh, wow, they're huge.
yeah,
I didn't know who they were 5 years ago when they opened up for us, but now I'm like, yeah, so for me, I love to see new, interesting things come into the music.
yeah,
That's what keeps it fresh. Well, there's yeah, there's three records that come to mind, so I've got to narrow it down from there. Actually, four. It's I hate this question because music
Se-
is such a
Sex Pistols
open
one? Is there a Sex
field, but
Pistols there?
Masters of Reality is one of them.
Yeah.
Sex Pistols is one. Masters of Reality is one. Also, Hear Nothing, See Nothing, Say Nothing is
Yeah.
one. And the Bad Brains Roar cassette, which was on cassette, it wasn't even on an album.
Yeah.
That is a.
Oh,
It came out on album later, but that those for me are the top level of must-haves
you
because
gotta
there's
have.
so many things were spawned by that. I mean, obviously Venom is huge to me, but that I even think Discharge kind of is the roots of
Yeah.
that type of metal.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay. Just one more
and
before we.
actually, and since we're talking about Birmingham, I gotta say Trapeze's first album,
Yeah.
that is a masterpiece.
All right.
So if you're into rock,
Yeah.
you got to check out Trapeze's first album, Medusa.